Russians are at it again to prove what a garbage country that they have, spreading their lies in overtime, where they do this massive missile attack, which is something that they've been somewhat effective with. Their troops are garbage. They can't really advance, but they can do this kind of terror bombing on cities. I mean, not to say that they haven't hit, defense industry targets and things like that with this, whatever. Either way, they're the aggressor, but also they purposely target quite clearly to anyone who's not a complete idiot, a children's cancer hospital. Okay. Which isn't something that you wouldn't, you wouldn't be shocked by. Like, I wouldn't say I'm outraged and shocked that Russians did this, because that's the kind of people they are. They're just complete, just brutish, I mean, they're just always known for their brutality, if you don't get that, you just are an idiot who knows nothing about history, and you don't really get what Russia is about. If you're gonna dispute here, Russians have always been brutal people, violent people, thuggish, and this is just more of the same. You see how their military conducts things. It's not much different. And again, they've always told lies. But what's really unforgivable is how many people we have in our country and in the West who are in the service of these lies, who spread them. Hinkle, Jackson Hinkle, and others are under the banner of Hinkleism, Hinkleites. You see how many people there are, and I mean, even frankly, you see how much this poison has spread to conservatives, where they're willing to carry water for the same kind of lies. It just shows, I don't know, it's a real problem. I think something should be probably done. Like, we can't have this. We can't have foreign infiltration. We can't just have this open internet where, hostile foreign actors are just pumping propaganda into the dumbest people that we have nonstop. And then, because we have however many people who are scurrilous, who will take Russian money, who are taking money from anonymous donors, who are putting stuff out, who are crowdfunding and getting money from, and they know. I mean, I'm not dumb, and I'm not inexperienced with this. I know kind of the score. I know. I mean, I see what's going on, and different people can figure out where if you get more money from anonymous donor, if you're all pro-Russia and whatnot, it's not lost on quite a few people. It's not. I don't know. I don't need to get into all that, because it gets into speculation. And we have enough facts to deal with, like without really speculating and the more conspiratorial elements. And the facts are, these people are a piece of shit. And you could see that they're lying. All right. For whatever reason they're lying. It's only of so much consequence, but I mean, something I kind of think that's kind of crazy is that in Europe you have how these Holocaust denial laws or so, where you can go to jail for denying the Holocaust. I mean, I don't support these kind of laws. I'm not like a total free speech absolutist at all. And like just the fact that how dumb people are, more and more you see that people don't deserve this. You know, just the average peasant probably needs to just shut up. I mean, the democratization of the arts and media, even though, I mean, you know, I'm not, you know, I've participated in this, but it's not necessarily a good thing completely. There's a lot of bad anyway. But isn't it kind of crazy that Europe has all these like Holocaust denial laws where you go to jail for this, but then or to be like a hater or something, or to like whatever. So you don't have free speech over there anyway. But something that's totally fine is you can just spread lies for like an enemy government and like you can deny ongoing like war crimes and things, and you can be a professional like gaslighter and make money doing so, and even though it's currently like killing people, because you can't really say that about a Holocaust denier. The Holocaust isn't going on. It's not like currently underway, or you know, even at the most, if you're the most shrieking, like, I don't know, even if you're like a museum of tolerance tour guide or something, you can't really say that that's currently underway, or it's currently like getting all these people killed or something, and not in the same way, where Russian propagandists or someone on social media spreading lies, conservative types, even JD Vance kind of people, have blood on their hands, like in a real way that a Holocaust denier doesn't. In some ways, Holocaust deniers are kind of harmless in some ways. I mean, I'm not going to say that this kind of stupidity is totally without pitfalls and dangers. I've already addressed that on the last show, but it's not the same. And even then, like, most of these people, like, you know, like a neo-Nazi National Socialist Holocaust denier is in some ways kind of like nullifying themselves, because they're basically saying that like the Holocaust would be bad or something. Like they're admitting like it would be bad to like kill Jews because of anti-Semitism or something. Like they're saying by denying it, they're saying, you know, well, we wouldn't be interested in doing this, or this would be an evil thing to do or something. And like the Europa people, you know, like they're saying like if they're saying Hitler's a libtard with a multi-ethnic army who's against racism, and the Allies were the real racists, and you know, this isn't a huge threat to liberalism, and it's not a huge threat to like Europe and the, you know, they've kind of nullified themselves with their own stupid beliefs. These aren't that dangerous, except in the fact, except in how, just in general, having a belief system based on lies is dangerous and can do whatever. I mean, there's huge dangers there, but you see what I'm saying. It's different where Russians will present themselves as libtards, or like, and their allies, like their propaganda with Assad was always that he defends minorities, he defends women's rights. He's the, you know, like the people he's fighting are religious fanatics and are tolerant of liberal ideals and don't have liberal values. But Assad does. He's a libtard, and he's tolerant of all religions and faiths and races, and women's rights are respected and things. And like, you know, they sell this with libtard values. They've internalized these values. They're just they're twisted, and they just want to be like edgy in some ways and contrarian, but they don't actually have a different set of values to go by. They're not like they don't even get like, they think that would be bad, just in the same way, like, these neo-Nazi types would be horrified to learn that Nazis were like racist and anti-Semitic and believed in like killing people, like in subjugating inferior races and things. Like they'd be horrified to, if they knew that they were all about like starting wars of aggression and taking territory, and because they've completely turned it into like a libtard thing. But like Russian propagandists do the same thing with Russia. Russia has no ideology. There's nothing that animates them. They don't have any kind of zealousness for their cause except like Russianism. Like their big song is like that dumb song. They have like this singer who's like a homosexual, funny enough. And this guy is big. The big song is like, I am Russian. It's like, it's so uncreative and dumb. And you see why like the CIA would like fund abstract expressionism and things that like art that's like more interesting things than like Russian crap. It's like, I am Russian or something. It's not even, at least like the Soviet Union had, it was more colorful in some ways because it had all the stuff. Like they had a cooler flag than the Russians do now, which is just this boring rainbow thing, stripy rainbow, red, white, and blue or whatever. They can't do any better. They don't have any ideology. It's like a faceless regime. And they're in a way, their operating principles are about like lying to people, gaslighting people, keeping them confused, keeping their own people confused. There's a documentary, and it's a good documentary, and it's Adam Curtis. He brought this up, but he talks a lot about this guy Surkov, this Russian guy, and how his big thing is like theater, and he'll back right-wing elements, he'll back left-wing elements, and this will confuse everyone. Like nobody will know what to even believe, and you'll just be in this strange cavalcade of lies, and the government will keep you off your, you don't have any sure footing to believe anything, but this is kind of where their government wants you. I think it's somewhat a misfire to act like there's some mastermind behind that, because this is just how Russians kind of just naturally are. And you see, that guy's he's been shit-canned. He doesn't really have any importance anymore. Like he once looked like he was like more interesting, but he's not involved, but the lies still go on. All the same stuff still goes on. Okay. But so this is kind of a Russian thing. They have nothing really gives them like a character, but it's like, but then they export this much to everywhere else, and now we have to deal with like all these poisoned people who are like, they're just completely fried by all the Russian propaganda they take in. They're all the people who are only, maybe the term midwit is abused, but these are people who will maybe a little bit brighter than mainstream crap, and probably not even. They just want to present themselves that much, but for whatever reason, or they're lower and they're just social reject who needs to, take on something else and prove that Hitler was really a libtard or something, even though they don't have different values and they can't come up with anything else. They just want to be contrarian or different, and they're limited in their abilities to do so, to come up with anything. Okay. But we have however many people like this. But I think it's like, I think it would be completely appropriate to arrest these people. And sometimes people call me out on this stuff, and they say it's bad that I suggest that people should be or like hypocritical or something. But I never say that I think that no, people should just be free or something for for whatever. I think these people are criminal. I think they belong in they should be interned. At least for the duration of the war. But I'd even give out harsher crimes for someone like Hinkle is a straight up traitor. And like Elon Musk, he even said the other day, well, what's the punishment for treason? I mean, if you back up a foreign country's war effort and you're harming your own country, and you say, why even step foot in our country? You should be under arrest. But I don't know, these people don't really take anything seriously. They'll just like Tucker Carlson lies and says he has an interview with Zelensky. But it's like, didn't you say you're on like a death list or something? You're on like a Ukrainian kill list or something, but you're going to go to like interview Zelensky or something? It makes about 0 sense. Anyway, yeah. I mean, like, it's just crazy that Europe would have these laws or something on like hate or like racism or something, or like Holocaust denial and stuff. But it's okay to lie, to knowingly spread lies and knowingly sympathize with like a hostile enemy country that is against Europe and is against the whole Western civilization, is against your own country, and is like killing all these people. Like the Dutch, there's like some, what was, I don't know. I saw this Dutch guy lying about this incident with the children's hospital, and they're the most flagrant lies. These people are even pointing out they're even showing like what the Russian missile looks like compared to like the video, and it's the same thing, and they're just lying. Like, anybody whose brain works at all, like, if you've ever done an IQ test, you could kind of figure out, like, you could kind of figure out where these people are going to score by if you could just have these images, right? And they still don't get it. Which just shows how much Russians, they really insult, and you can tell that they look down. Like, you can tell, like, Russians don't really care. Like, some guy said to me not too long ago, like, he was saying, oh, if you purge these people, it's not like Russians care. But of course they don't care. They probably just think these people are stupid pigs. Like, I mean, there's people who are like supporting Russia who call themselves National Socialists and Nazis, even though Russians are pretty clear that they hate Nazis and want them all dead. But I'm sure like some Nazi starts lying for Russia. The Russians just lie. They think it's funny. They think it's funny that they can gaslight these people, and I'm sure they just think they're just stupid pigs, just meant for like the useful idiot. It's not like they really care. But I mean, it's still a huge problem for us. It's still like we have to deal with this. The Russian, I mean, where we have people like this in our country and in Europe, I mean, especially Europe, because in the US you could at least say, well, we have the First Amendment, so we're not, we don't throw people in jail for saying this or that. Not to say that the government won't go after you. They've gone after me for different things. But this is who they should go after. Like, I don't think it's hypocritical to say that. Like, I think it's been messed up in the past when the feds have gone after me, but I don't think it's really a problem if they go after these people, because they're actively like trying to like do all this. Oh, but yeah, this Dutch guy, and you see tons of like Dutch people who are about all this Russia stuff, and it's probably just because Russia killed all their people on that airplane, because these Russian idiots shoot down a passenger plane, and they kill all these Dutch kids. They kill all these Dutch people on it. They kill all these, it's a lot of Dutch. It's a lot of children. There's like a whole family who's like all their kids are wiped out. It's really sad kind of stuff. But Russia then invests heavily into gaslighting the piss out of these people, and you could see how well it works, where the worst elements of their people go for it. The dumbest and the most scurrilous, the dumbest people and the most, and then the underman, the man who can't make it to the level of who's under the standard of civilization, and then the leadership of the underman, which can come from other places. But you could see that play out. You see how certain types, Russia invests in gaslighting the Dutch, and the Dutch are still, you see how many Dutch gaslighters there are. You see how many Dutch Russia sympathizers they are, even though they should have actually done a whole lot more, and they should be doing a whole lot more for that attack, which kills their own people. But such is the state of things, where no one has any manhood left. No one's ready to defend anything. No one, they don't appreciate anything. They don't see any beauty to their own civilization, to their own country, to their own people. They don't, I don't know, they just let it all go. And then they sympathize with some other thing. And then we have however many people who are about the same. And then some of them, and the thing is, we get some people like maybe the most extreme recent example is that Russ Bentley, Texas Bentley, who's the big Russian hero, and they're making documentaries about him, and he's from Texas, and he's not like ethnic Russian or anything that would make this maybe less interesting of like a foreign fighter type. But he's making songs about like the Donbass, and he could give a rip. I'm sure he lied about shooting down that plane, and they play his songs on the radio in the Donbass, and he's like the rock star over there. And then just recently, he'd been fighting in the Donbass against, and he goes over there and he tells like Rolling Stone that he's all about fighting for the underdog, and he's like fighting for Russia against a much smaller country. And he says it's all my life I've been into sticking up for the underdog, and I'm all about the Viet Cong and Che Guevara. I like Che Guevara, and I like the Viet Cong, and I like Sandinistas or something, and like all the stuff that Russians have always told you to like. All the stuff that the Russian poison has always insisted we're the good guys, and that's what he grew up on, and he's just totally fried. He hates his country. He calls himself Texas Bentley. There's nothing really. I'm not that into Texas, but you can't tell me you're like a real Texan or something. Like shut the fuck up. But anyway. This guy, he's like fighting for Russia for like 10 years. He's like their big Russian propagandist. He goes over there. He's all passionate about their cause. They're making documentaries about him. And then he gets exactly what he deserves, because his own comrades, he's over there. He's got surrounded by all these Central Asian troops, all these other elements, all those communist idiots in the Russian army, all of these brute, perverts and all this other thing, even though you're going to tell me that Russian's not a bunch of perverts. Okay. But Russ Bentley, who isn't like, if you've ever seen him, he's like I don't know, he's just like this fat hillbilly, and he's like older, but Putin's soldiers gang rape this guy to death. Like they like gang rape him and chop his head off and kill him and decapitate him after they kidnap him, gang rape him to death and chop his head off. I mean, that's just the truth of that's just what happened. I'm just telling you what happened. You know, that's what his wife found out. She was all alarmed. You know, he converted to Russian Orthodoxy, and he did everything that these people. But you know, they always end up killing their own like that. They always kill most of the people. Like a lot of the people who like, there were a lot of like communists from America who went to the Soviet Union like after the October Revolution, like before World War II and before this, you know, and they're all about being, you know, building socialism or whatever, and Russians are just normal people, and what they don't get it, but they moved to the Soviet Union, and before long they're all dead, like they're all caught up in these huge purges and all that, and executed as being like foreign spies or something. And because in the end they just hate you. They don't really think you're cool in the same way that you do, like because you're the cool dissident guy who hates your own country, who's a huge traitor. You know, they don't really think that's, in the end, like I say, I'm sure Russians think all these people are just just idiots, just dumb pig, just traitor. No one respects a traitor from anywhere. That's just a fact. You know, call it, you know, whatever your reason, everyone is going to look at you suspiciously like that. Like no one thinks you're cool. You betray your own kind. Yeah, Russ Bentley, and so he gets his head chopped off, and I'm sure he's so dead. Like then they all forget about it. Or you got all these types like the Russia sympathizer in the West, like Nick Griffin, who is he's a Nazi himself, and now he's all about fighting the Nazis, you know, or whatever. His whole life, he's the biggest Nazi in Great Britain. And that's what he set out to be until the Russian money comes in, and now he's about smash the Nazis or whatever. And Russ Bentley was killed by a Ukrainian death squad or something. And then it turns out he's raped to death by his own comrade, by Russian soldiers, by Putin's army, who's not gay, you know, because like it's been covered on this show. Pretty much everyone in the Russian army. And it's a standard practice that they rape each other, that they force each other to do. It's a very common punishment. Your squad leader, you mess up, you know, you mess up the folds on your blanket or something, or you know, you can't bounce a quarter off your pillow, and you owe your squad leader like a blowjob or something. That's how it works in the Russian army. They sodomize each other. There's how many videos you see it. I'm not trying to prove this by like spreading gay porn of how gay Russians are, but don't come at me trying to tell me that Russians are like, you know, not like that or are different, or you know, when you tell me this stuff, like when someone comes at me and says like Russians are Christian or something. They're defending Christianity and the white race or something. You know, all I really hear is that what I hear you say is, I hate God. I'm an idiot. I'm probably a closet homosexual myself. You know, that's just what I assume. And I think that, I mean, I'm just going to go with that hypothesis and just avoid you. And if you've told me that and you wonder why I, you know, I'm avoiding you, that might be it. I mean, I don't know. But more than likely, maybe you're just ignorant. Maybe you're just a dumb person. Maybe you're just getting into the game late. You know, I get it. You know, people tell me all the time that, maybe I'm being too harsh. And certain people are going to come around still. I get that. I think there are maybe people who will still come around. Maybe they're just not paying attention so much. Maybe they have to work quite a bit and they can only dedicate so much time. I don't know. Even though, however many other people have a full-time job and they just do the research and they figure it out. But okay, I don't know. I'm not trying to hate on people for being just dumb in itself, but at a certain point, you're dumb and you're evil. Like all the people who I've seen, like who get into like Jackson Hinkle type stuff, like that's what I follow you under. And I've seen it. I've seen all the big dissidents, and maybe it's gone out of style a little bit as more people know who Jackson Hinkle is, but. I'd see who would spread that crap. Anyway, Russians. I mean, if Russians, like, I could respect Russians more as like if they just went like full orc mode or something. If they would just really be evil. Like, if you want to bomb a children's hospital or just admit it. Don't send your politicians to the UN with all the stuff about how it's not. What they're doing, they know that they did it. They did it on purpose. It's called terror bombing, and there's however many other strikes in the strike. Most of their missiles get shot down, but this missile is programmed ahead of time, and it's not their most inaccurate. Not to say that Russian tech is all that great or that these things can't fail, but. In all, like, I mean, let's just stop being complete, whatever. Just come to reality that they programmed that missile to hit where it did. And they did it. And then their politicians go to the UN to lie. They know they're going to do this. They know they're going to inflict terror on the population they're bombing. And then they're going to lie to you and just gaslight the piss out of you. And that's how they back up their attack. And that's why this is also an attack on me and you, And it just is, my friend. Like, if you have to hear these lies, if you're subjected to it, you're being attacked. Like, I feel like I'm, like, when Russians talk and when Russian sympathizers talk, like, I like, at a certain point, like, my blood just boils and I just start clenching my fist. And, like, if this wasn't like, if I didn't have to deal with most of these people like through the internet, I mean, I don't know exactly how it would go down, because it makes me angry when people just insult me. And if you're going to lie to my face, I start to get angry. And, I don't know. I don't think it's cool. I don't think it's cool when people do that. I don't really tolerate it. It just says that you have no respect and you think I'm an idiot and you're trying to use me and manipulate me. And if you have any kind of principles, and that's how Russia's hitting you up, if you're on the right or the left or anything, because if you can figure out how cynically Russians are going at it with this stuff, that's how you should take it. And I mean, I consider it an attack. I consider it a failing on our government's part that this isn't being dealt with. Like, at a certain point, the government's legitimacy isn't doing whatever other people think. Like, people say like, oh, we have all this money for war, but not enough for homeless people or junkies or something on the street or something to help them. Well, here's the thing. If just to educate, if you think like that, like, the government's purpose primarily is national defense. And this is like, libertarians they've totally screwed. And frankly, libertarianism is probably concocted by some communists or something as like a virus to spread on people. But this is what the government is for, and they should be making armies and things. It's completely legitimate. But the government's main real purpose is, if you don't believe me, just maybe, I don't know, read the Bible or a history book or something, or anything, not completely idiotic or written by a libertarian or something, but like or like a Russian sympathizing person. But the government's purpose is to defend the country with like a military, and also to punish criminals. So these are things that really our governments are failing at, like, and they should be held to task for this stuff. Like, if Western governments can't defend Europe, this is a huge problem. Like, we need a government that does. Like, if we're gonna lose, if we're gonna lose, like with Ukraine, and we're gonna let Russia, completely hostile, just bulldoze into Europe or whatever. If we're going to then these governments really lack legitimacy. And frankly, they probably do. And, if they can't deal with people like Jackson Hinkle, and they're just going to let all these criminals like run free and do nothing, like they just let all this Russian propaganda just run wild in our country and do nothing, then they have very little legitimacy. Like any government works like that. Like North Korea, that they always saber rattle because that's where they get their legitimacy or something. Or like Arab governments will pretend to be against Israel or something because this is what they're deriving their legitimacy from. Even though it's a fraud, you could see it's the military aspect of it is necessary, because otherwise people will say this is an illegitimate government. But people in the West are so degenerate, they lose sight of that, and they think that the government's supposed to be about like social welfare and like helping homeless junkies or something, But it's really sad. Just in the fact that like the whole Russian like narrative, and you can hear you don't need to go to Russia to hear this. Just talk to like a conservative, just talk to like a Republican, and that's a little bit unfair because a lot of Republicans are not into this. But like the JD Vance type, just find one of those types, and you could hear this sort of thing. And they've internalized Russian propaganda to an extent, like they think like the West is like some hyper aggressive like military force, like it's like this disciplined mailed fist like pointed right at Russia, just ready to pounce and launch like Operation Barbarossa 2 at like any minute, and that's why Putin had to do what he did or whatever, you'll hear it from them. And like, if you're not an idiot, this should just fall flat, like, because isn't our government just a bunch of pansies? Like, isn't NATO kind of like a toothless thing that's always been a joke? Like, and for decades, that's how everyone talked about NATO. People, do we really need this thing anymore? It's just kind of a joke. It's just kind of like a flabby thing that just sits around and has zero purpose. But suddenly now it's like, oh no, NATO is like a hyper aggressive warmongering element, like bent on Russia's destruction at any minute, Like, you are dumb as hell if you like. How do you even figure that? Like, are you in Russia? If you're in America and that's what you figure, and you figure like Biden is like this like warlord, and like all they're the war pegs, and they're all about wars, and really, I don't know. I never really saw a huge push to like invade Russia, except from like Russia sympathizing people who will portray it like that. It's pretty obvious that we're not a really militaristic country. This isn't like a martial regime, and Europe doesn't really do anything to contribute even to their militaries. It's like how much Trump would always say, what, these people aren't even contributing to NATO. They're doing nothing. They're not taking the military seriously. But suddenly it's but then this is how they're going to say Russia's war is justified, that there's like this imminent like Barbarossa force of European countries like headed by the US, like preparing for this huge like global conflagration like World War III. No one's interested. No one really gives a rip about Russia that much. No one's like, we've got to get Russia, even at the most, oh, well, what about under Trump with all the, it doesn't really count. It turns out, and also it turns out, some of that stuff, the libtards actually weren't completely off with some of because it's true that it's not quite true what they were saying, that I don't think it's true that Trump is like a Putin's puppet or something, but it is true that there is Russian, you could call it interference, or you could call it just activity, but it's propaganda activity. Because I mean, they're pushing Bernie, Sanders and all this stuff too. They're like, you could just see some of the stuff that originated from Moscow, like the memes and imagery and things, and they're promoting all kinds of LGBT, propaganda. Even though you say, oh, that's banned in Russia, but they export it. And then what blows my mind is that, like, the JD Vance kind of hillbilly, the pro-Russian hillbilly, well, of course they would do that. We're our enemy, so they'll poison us. They'll send us the thing that weakens, But that's called a hostile act, you jackass. That's called, if you're gonna say that you think that gay porn is evil, and then you send it to my kids, I'm just supposed to be like, oh, of course you would do that. You're my enemy. No problem. Fair is fair. It blows my mind how ratty and disgusting these people are, how unmanly, how degenerate, that's how they think. They don't really get anything. And then even when it comes to war, it is like that. Like, fair is fair, even with like you see the Russians, most Russians in the Russian line is to lie about like the children's hospital, bombing the hospital. Most of them that are on board, because even their politicians are at the UN hitting this up. Hinkle isn't just some guy. He meets with Lavrov. He meets with the top echelons of the Russian state. He's backed by Russia. Say what you will. That's Russia's guy. That's who's saying what Russia wants you to hear. And if they weren't, he wouldn't be meeting with Lavrov, having dinner with Lavrov, and doing all this stuff. But that's what we have. So, I mean, I don't know. But the Russians, I don't know. I'd have more respect for them if they just were like just fully orc or something, or fully like, because orcs aren't like trying to present themselves as like libtards or something. Like, in some of these things like Mordor or something, or like Harkonnens and things, which are kind of they have a certain like allure to them, or they're like in a way, like because I can get into like kind of a evil mode or something. So some of these things are kind of cool. Like I think I was watching the new Dune movies are so excellent, and but the Harkonnens kind of, I don't know. I think there's just something to them in those movies, almost kind of a beauty to them, and kind of they're so evil. They're so like their cruelty and all that. It makes it kind of I don't know. It's just, but the Russians don't have that. It's more like you see them and it's just kind of crummy people, just crappy people. It's like a homeless bum army. Their army looks like homeless bums to me. And then and then they just lie to you about everything. So it's not like they have like a great, I don't know, they're presenting themselves as like a libtard thing. And not to say that like an evildoer won't lie to you, but I don't know. The extent that Russians do it and the way that they'll kind of try to portray themselves as something, and they'll try to hit up, and even their piece of shit president will always be like criticizing us for not being libtard enough, for not, it's like I can't really respect these people even as an enemy, like you could with like Bin Laden or like Baghdadi or these kind of people who actually like, believe in something and are like animated in something and have this cause with, the Russian is Russianism and money and lie is just, I don't know. There's just something to it. Like, it just seems like crumb bomb, amorphous mass of just mediocre, boring crap. Like that's what we're fighting. It's just like a big blob of shit. It's not like this, like, cool, evil, like, like it's just shit. Like, it's just like garbage. It's just like a pile of garbage. It's just like below humanity force, which is quite a bit. Like, it's not like that's like not, like that's not a weighty thing. Like it's like, in a way, this might be a huge battle. It might be even bigger. We're fighting against like, I mean, that's a massive force when you consider how many people are kind of dumb, how many people have these kind of tendencies in them. So if they can mobilize, when they're mobilizing all the worst elements, that's in a way that's its own power. It's just a power without any kind of allure. It's a power without any beauty. It's not. So if you're someone who has, is in any way attracted to like higher kind of things, you're in any way idealistic, you're going to be repulsed by this thing, this amorphous mass, this blob. But if you're an idiot, you might easily just be like put right into the blob, and you'll be saying the same thing. Oh, you're fighting till the last Ukrainian or something. You won't get it. You are, I don't know, hard to consider you fully human at this point. Hard to have the least bit of respect for you at this point. Because you're coming at me with lies. You have no respect, or someone lied to you because they had no respect for you, and you're just embarrassing yourself by regurgitating the stuff like this pea-brained, parrot. But I don't know. That's what we have to deal with. I think that I really think it's a huge problem. Like, action has to be taken. If governments don't want to do this, then they're really lacking a lot of legitimacy. And the thing is, even now, our government's trying everything. Like the Biden people, they're really not doing all that great. It started out like it seemed like they were, but they could be doing a whole lot more. If they ramped up with weapon systems and all this stuff, they could be doing a lot more. And if we put all this stuff on the battlefield already, the Russians can't really fight in a way. Like, they can't. They're like a big blob, so they can't like punch through the Ukrainian lines. They have enough resources to do it, but it's just like an African military or something. Like, if you give them all this resources and weapons and vehicles and things, it doesn't mean that they're just gonna turn into like a disciplined force and they're going to be like a well-oiled machine that can maneuver and do all the stuff. Not necessarily. This might all just go to crap, and the stuff might just rust away, and it might turn into nothing because it's not a given. It's not. War isn't won by just having more stuff, or the people who say that Russia can't lose. Well, sorry, they can lose, and they've lost before. They lose all the time. And before that, the Tsar and his whole family got executed, and the whole country was taken over. So it's hard to really say that they can't lose. And they've lost the Japanese people, and they've lost they lose quite a bit. So just because they have all the stuff, it doesn't mean they're going to win. And if you think they're winning, it just shows that you're a loser. If you look at the Russian performance, and even now there's how many people, whatever they'll try to come up with, there are people who will even say that they're fighting underground or something in the biolabs or something. And this is to justify why the battlefield doesn't really move, does it? And like all the places that you would hear about in World War II and things, the big place where the battles are. If you're a student of history at all, you've heard of a lot of these places. Like Kharkov, Kiev, and all these places. Well, Russians can't really take any of these cities, can they? They'll brag about the small towns that they can take, but it's not the places that you might have heard of from before. These key places that used to, Kharkov in World War II, there'd be major battles because it would switch, back and forth. The Soviets would take it, then the Wehrmacht would take it, and then back and forth. And these are major battles. And then there's some guy named Nemitz or something on Twitter who's like, oh, they're getting ready for the 10th Battle of Kharkiv. Ha 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 ha. Well, that means Russia's lost like 10 battles, you jackass. And this is some shithead who's thinking that Russia's going to win or something. And but it hasn't changed hands once, even though it's right over the Russian border. And they try to encircle the city, and they can't do it. And I said early on in this war, I felt that if they did take it early on, then Ukraine would have collapsed. I still kind of think that that's the case, but they couldn't take it. They can't take anything. They can take small towns that you've never heard of, but they're not taking the places that you have heard of. So what's that tell? You're just ignorant if you think that you just have no conception of history. If you think it's of course, I mean, the people who figured like from the get-go that it would seem that Russia should be able to just take Ukraine like as easy as the U.S. took. They should have been able to take Kiev as easy as the U.S. took Baghdad. That's a more intelligent position than what these people were winning is like. Where like over 2 years on, 2.5 years on, you're struggling you don't even have 20% of the country. You don't even you've yet to capture like any major cities, any regional capitals, any major. You're just floundering, and you can't advance. And the trenches are there. I mean, that's just pretty sad. If you're impressed by that performance, it's probably just because you can't perform in anything. It's probably just you're a loser. I don't know any other explanation why you would be impressed by an abysmal performance. Maybe you can tell me why, but you're probably going to just embarrass yourself. No, I don't know. These are people who are not. I don't know. That's about all they could do, though. They could send the missiles at the hospital. They can make the war go on forever, or then the people and there's been however much people would say from the beginning. At first, Russia's sympathizers would say, "Oh, Putin only sent his worst gear in. Now he's going to send the elite," which is funny because it's like all the troops that got killed before that are like the crap troops. Then he's going to send the good ones in. Then it turns out they can't really do anything. But they would say, "Oh, the winter is going to come." It did not. It didn't matter, did it? And then what? You know, I'll say this or that, or then they'll say, "Oh, the Russians. This is what demilitarization and denazification is about." You know, not about rushing in there like idiot Americans who just blitzkrieg a country and then take the whole thing over. And then no, it's about barely entering, and then you let the enemy wipe himself out, rushing against your lines. Even though the enemy then has heavy artillery and all these weapons and air assets still up, air defense still up, you know, and rocket artillery, you know. Instead of fighting an insurgency, it's like you have rocket artillery pouring all over your positions all the time. It's just, that's such a great idea. I don't know. It's just, how can you even consider these people human? They should not talk about military affairs if they're that stupid. It should just not be allowed. I don't care. I don't know how we order this, but there's something to what we're living in now where we just can't have it. Like, we can't have every idiot just poisoning people all the time. We can't have foreign powers poisoning people and just letting people run wild until we have politicians like these hillbillies like J.D. Vance who internalize the stuff and are willing to lie and are this scurrilous about the stuff. You know, they're undermining the whole nation. They're undermining just about everything. You know, they're even attacking like the foundations of like our religion, of our civilization, of all these things. And they're perverting all the stuff. It just shouldn't be allowed. And I don't hold free speech higher than that. I don't think we should just let these criminals run wild and attack us. These foreign criminals just run wild, and we should just let foreign governments manipulate us and our media and just poison our people with this stuff. You know, because even if you're not dumb enough to fall for it, you have to like see this crap and hear this crap, and then the people you know who might be foolish are gonna embarrass themselves in front of you and just kind of disappoint you. And the whole thing is just not really correct. It's not correct what Russia's doing. If you don't have any problem with it, I really wonder about you. Like you're some kind of creep. If it's all just fine with you. But yeah, I don't know. One way or another, these people have to be dealt with. They will be dealt with. If we can get them to all go to Russia, that'd be fine. Because we know if we can get them all to go to Russia, they'll all perish in Russia. And Russians will brutalize them and destroy them. Just like they did Texas Bentley, rock star of Donbass. You know, Hinkle should be. He should be made to go to Russia. And this is kind of, but isn't it funny how Hinkle's name is like he's the same. It's the same name from the Charlie Chaplin Dictator, like the Great Dictator movie. Like the parody of Hitler is like in the movie. It's supposed to be funny, like that the parody of Hitler is named Hinkle. But then it's like, there's Hinkle. I don't know. It's just funny that that's his name. I mean, people talk about like the big lie type thing, or like Hitler and Joseph Goebbels invented this thing, but they weren't really saying like that's what you should do. Like they actually would say like the best propaganda is truthful. Not to say that they were honest about everything. They weren't. But they would say, you know, the best propaganda is truthful. You know, the truth, you know, it should be on your side, or something's wrong with you, you know. They would say it's the enemy who does. They would say that's what we're fighting, is the big lie. That the enemies will tell this. Their strategy is to make up a huge lie and just say it over and over again. You know, this huge preposterous lie. But if you say it over and over again, the masses will come along with it. They were saying that's what we're fighting against. In a way that they, you know, when they were fighting against Russia, certainly they were, you know, but that's I don't know. But now with Russia, it's like they like copied off that and like just took it for like advice. You know, that's how you see Russia going at it with the stuff. I mean, Russia's always been like a nation that would make up weird lying propaganda. Even not just the Soviet Union, it goes back like to like the Tsar. They would always come up with this Tsar's secret police would concoct this sort of thing. Okay. But I don't know. But at some point, and I think probably things will just have to get worse. But at some point, we'll have to deal with this because we can't have all these people in our midst. So we're going to have to confront these elements at some point. And that'll be their doom. As soon as we can get serious about the war, that'll be their doom. When, because you won't tolerate a Hinkle in your presence. You want, if you're actually fighting a war, like these kind of idiotic, distant types will act like it's oh, the way wars go is you fight the country, but then you get flooded with the refugees from the country. That's really anomalous. And most of the time, it would go the opposite. For instance, if we were fighting Mexico now, then Mexican immigration would be out of the question because you'd be like letting enemy agents into your country. The only reason that even happened in the War on Terror, it's not like that was a feature and like a design that like George Bush wanted, you know. It's because there's a huge dissident element, which was undoubtedly, you know, energized by our enemies and their hostile propaganda, who were saying like, you know, Islamophobia or something is a huge, and we need to let the refugees in or something. And it's only the terrorists. Otherwise, it would have been obvious military necessity that, like, you wouldn't let, like, you know, the potential terrorists in or something. And like, that's how that militaries think. If you're fighting a war, if you're like a military regime, it'd be like the most obvious thing to not, you know, take in like the enemy population into your country, because that would be like it'd be like letting them like maneuver into you or something. I don't know. But if we get serious about the war, that's what we'd have to come up with. At some point, we're gonna have to. It might just take a long time. But Russia's not getting it together. You see, like I said, they can't take Kharkiv, they can't take anything. They can't maneuver like a good, really effective force. It's about maneuver warfare. You can quickly move and punch through and do all this stuff, and you know. But it needs an organized force, not just a big blob, of bums or criminals that like the Wagner group just sends to get killed by like machine guns, or you know. It's funny how there's certain people who like think that stuff, like they like the wacky adventures of Wagner or something is like, that's cool. Like this guy just gets killed by like Putin or whatever, and like all his army was like criminals or something that they would just mindlessly charge into like machine guns or something. I mean, in a way, it is kind of funny, but like, I don't get why they think it's funny. Like, I think it's funny that they're all obliterated, and they've all been like shamefully like just sent to their deaths and died ignominiously. But then they think it's like cool or something. It just shows how degenerate they are. They're just degenerate, brute, subhuman, just I don't know. They're just a degraded kind of people if they've got to that point. But that's what we have. That's what we're dealing with now. But to a large extent, the snakes have come out of the grass because you could identify these people because they say what Russia wants them to say. And when you say this stuff, we know who you are. You know, in the future, they should be dealt with. Just keep tabs. Keep tabs on the people who spread these lies. Like the people who are like saying like, oh, well, look, you know, it's the most obvious lies and things. For instance, I mean, if you like, even the idea that like, oh, the hospital is actually hit by an air defense missile. The Ukrainians hit it, and Hinkle was even saying how like he was even comparing Israel. Oh, Israel says that Palestinians bomb their own people, but then this is like different or something. Like he's saying that he's zero self-awareness. He doesn't get that like Russians kind of apparently use the same playbook, and he's using the same playbook that he would accuse Israel of doing. Okay, and he just zero self-awareness. You know, oh, you know, and then it's just the most obvious because then they show this is what the Russian missile looks like, and and then this is what the missile looks like that hit the hospital, and it's the same exact missile. But if you're a complete fool, if you have a IQ less than like 80, then you would just be like, someone could just tell you, you know. No, those are different missiles, and you won't get it. You'll just agree. You know? You'll just agree with Hinkle. You know, you'll just go into the blob of subhumanity. With like the degenerate you are, they'll just shovel you right in there. They have no respect for you. They know who you are. They know you're an idiot, and they're just going to mockingly use you and manipulate you. And use you as a tool to undermine our country. Well, at some point, you know, we can really call this a hygienic measure to if we're rid of all these rotten, cancerous elements, the traitorous elements. You've just been plaguing our country for decades and decades. Just like look at the '60s and look at all these people freaking out. Doing all this, like all the SDS, all the kind of pro-Russian kind of movements and things like that. You know, all kinds of them. You know, this is backed by Russia. It's backed by. It's called Russian disinformation. If you think. And then it'll be like conservatives now who'll be like, what if I told you there is no Russian disinformation? Well, if you told me that, you just tell me, just say I'm an idiot. I hate God. I hate my country. I hate my race. I hate my people. I hate, you know, I don't know. Just say I'm a rotten piece of garbage instead. Just say I can't use my brain. I'm a brainless fool. Just say I'm not very manly. I have zero jealousy for my country, for anything, for my family. For, you know, I just say I won't defend anything. I'm a coward. I'm a dirty rat. Just say that instead. I don't know. But it's been the same stuff. It's still going on. It's been a huge problem. It was a big problem in the 60s. It contributed to us losing a major war that was completely winnable because we have all these elements that are tearing at our society. And once again, we have all these elements, and this is going to be even worse. What this turns into, you know, if you thought the 60s and that kind of turmoil was like a problem, this is going to be, you know, what this turns into will make that look like a picnic, because they're just shooting. It's like these people are just mainlining like all this bull crap. It's like much power. There's more powerful kind of mass media, and it's just the people are completely defenseless. And even like just hillbillies are just spouting communist propaganda. Like they're just totally Bolshevized, and Russians are now just able to just point and click and just Bolshevize our idiot hillbillies and the worst people that we have. Not all of our hillbillies, but the dumbest, most rotten, just ratty, traitorous hillbillies. Yeah, they're going to get these people and just stick this right into, just program them. And they're going to get all the elements, all the, you know, kind of nasty contrarian people, all the people who are just naturally going to betray their country, all the really diseased and malformed and deformed elements they can get onto their side to undermine us and to stab us in the back. And they, you know, so this is why we need to really, really clean house. Somehow or other, you know, I mean, I'm not in charge of this, but somebody might have to do it, or it's going to be, I don't know, bad news bears. It already is a huge problem. We already see how messed up it is, and I don't know. You see, like, people are just cool with this. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying. I don't know. Definitely, we're gonna have to take action against these people. But for now, I mean, they need to be noted and all that. But I mean, I don't know. It can't just be allowed to stand. At some extent, we don't want to like. I don't want to say like I want to like. We need to like police what everyone believes. You know, and if I you know, because that's not correct. You know, we don't want something like that where. That then we'd have a more Russia like pathological government where it's gonna try become obsessively paranoid about like what people think and things like that. You know, we want to actually have the people who think, who are open-minded and can come up with new ideas and things, even if they're critical of the government. I'm critical of the government, you know. But what we don't want is people who are just straight up traitors on behalf of foreign powers who are going to just like lie their pants off on behalf of enemy countries who like want us all dead. What value is there in that? In keeping those people around? Like we never kept those people around. Like we've hanged tons of people like that. You know, that would be getting back to the basics of what our country's about. That'd be being a more serious country. If we want to be a serious country, it's going to be about getting a little more into the war, becoming a little more martial in character, and ruthlessly stamping out these rotten elements, these cancerous, evil, just rat, Hinkleite elements. There's no reason to tolerate anything like that. So, at some point, you know, I don't know who's going to do it. If some cadre wants to take over and get serious about that, I'm on board. Well, I don't know. I'm not in favor of just living out, you know, living with these people. They've got to go. There's like, I don't think that's unreasonable. Like they're traitors. You know, they've crossed the line. You know, you could say, well, you're one to talk, but you know what? I don't. You know, maybe I am one to talk, but the truth is the truth. You know. So I don't know if any of these people want if there's any good people amongst these people. Okay, yeah, I'm still welcome to them changing their mind. I'm not going to say I haven't changed my mind. I'm not going to say I haven't believed in things that are incorrect or foolish, or I haven't said dumb things in the past. You know, I'm you know, not saying that, but I don't think this is totally unreasonable. Anyhow, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Thank you for listening.
Hinkle!